There's laughing, she's smiling, she's beautiful. They're buying alcohol for a date night at home. Very playful, very happy.
They noticed a half-naked body lying in the road.
There was a laceration to the head, and there was a significant pool of blood. There was a bottle of alcohol on scene. I saw that it was uncorked. It was next to her.
Was this murder, or was this an accident?
Kat belonged to a members-only type of website service. She was a beautiful woman, and one of the ways that she made money was selling pictures of herself.
It's one of the dangers of having a following on the internet. There are bad followers out there.
She was a great mother. They focus on her risky endeavors online, and she was so much more than that.
Looking at the video, everything looks great. It's sad to think that these are her final moments.
January 2018. For Kat and Jeff West, the quiet Birmingham, Alabama suburb of Calera is the perfect place to raise a family.
Kat was a very special person, and her energy was magnetic. Everybody was drawn to her.
Jeff was a very nice guy. He was very approachable and super sweet. It seemed like a match made in heaven.
Kat and Jeff have been together for nearly 15 years, and it's clear why Jeff fell for his wife.
Kat was beautiful inside and out. She captivated the audience the minute she walked in the door. She had a banging body, her makeup done all the time. Kat was hot.
Kat and I met as teenagers. She had this little Pontiac Fiero that I thought was really cool. She would pick me up and we would spend time with friends and go to the beach. We just did what most suburban kids do.
After high school, Kat surprises her friends when she takes a job in a club working as an exotic dancer.
She bought a condo in Tampa when she was 21 and began a relationship that she told me took her down a dark road, and she developed some bad habits, and it was not a healthy relationship the way she described it.
But when Kat turns 29, a chance encounter turns her life around. She meets Jeff West, a recruiter for the Army, and it's love at first sight.
They met in 2004 at a Super Bowl party. She just described him as a really sweet guy, and he was the person that she had sort of been waiting for, and the answer to her dreams and her knight in shining armor. Her life changed.
With Jeff in her life, Kat stops dancing, and after 4 months of dating, the couple marries. A year later, in 2005, the couple welcomes a baby girl, Logan, into the family.
Kat was a great mom. Yeah, she adored her daughter.
She would always rant about how Jeff was a great dad. They were very family-oriented, and you could see it.
In 2014, Kat and Jeff settle down in the small town of Calera, Alabama.
They moved to Alabama because both of their families lived there, and they wanted to be close to the grandparents.
They bought a big house. Jeff retired out of the military, and they had a great family life.
Jeff finds work as a campus police officer at a local college, while Kat is a stay-at-home mom. But the fun-loving couple still finds time to let loose.
She was the life of the party. That was her role. She loved it.
Friends love to follow Kat's life through her fun posts on social media.
It seemed like she was in a really good spot. She was very happy in the place that she always wanted to be.
January 12th, 2018. Kat and Jeff are heading out for a date night.
They dropped their daughter off at her grandparents' house, and they were going to have a good night.
Kat's parents and her daughter have no idea that this is the last time they will see her. In the early morning hours of January 13th, 2018, a 911 call comes into the Calera Police Department.
Around 5 a.m., a young woman living in the neighborhood noticed a half-naked body lying in the road.
The neighbor calls 911, and Calera Police Department rushes officers to the scene.
When they got there, they saw a female body and nothing but a pink bra.
The body is half in the road and half in the grass.
There was blood around her, and there was a bottle of absinthe right next to her as well.
Here in Alabama, the coroner's job is to go out on the scene, determine what the cause and manner of death is. She was a blonde female, very petite, maybe 30s, 40s. There was a laceration to the head, and there was a significant pool of blood. Also, looking around scene, we noticed that there was a cell phone on scene, there was a bottle of alcohol on scene. We saw that it was uncorked, it was next to her, but the bottle was kind of leaning up against the phone at an odd angle, so that was odd to all of us.
The bottle and cell phone are collected for testing as investigators look for evidence to help identify the victim and explain what happened to her.
There's a myriad of scenarios that are playing through your head. At face value, this looks like it was just an accident. Maybe they had walked down the street and they were hit by a car or fell, hit their head. Was she pushed down? Was this done by somebody?
As police examine the scene, a local resident tells officers they recognize the woman as their neighbor, Kat West, and points out her home right across the street. As detectives approach the home, they see that the door is open. Jeff West appears in the doorway.
The detective could tell that he was visibly shaken.
The investigators gently begin to interview the distraught man.
He had started to kind of detail their previous date night.
They go to dinner, and after they didn't want the night to end, so they stopped at the liquor store, bought a bottle of absinthe, and went home and continued the night. She's changed, she's in something more comfortable. He's taken photos of her, and it seemed like the night was going well for the two of them.
Jeff tells the investigators that he and Kat returned home around 9 p.m., and he had shared some photos from their fun night together on social media, including one of the bottle of absinthe they were drinking.
He told police officers that he was tired, his leg was hurting, he went to bed in the downstairs bedroom around 10:30 p.m., and he also told them that his wife wasn't ready to put an end to the night at that time.
Jeff tells the detectives much of the night is muddled in his memory, but it was the sound of the police sirens that woke him up, right before they came up to his door.
After a couple of drinks, sometimes you don't remember, or if you do remember, everything isn't so clear.
At this point, you really have no leads as to really what happened, who did it, and where to even start.
The question then has to be asked, was this murder or was this an accident?
Jeff was the last person with her, so I mean, at that point, it makes him the first suspect.
Detectives discover images of Kat West's final moments.
This is the last time we saw Kat West alive. She looks smiley, cheek to cheek. The two of them are walking through the store.
And the more they learn about their victim, the more complex the case becomes.
She had 50,000 followers across social media accounts.
Kat was too friendly on occasion. Kat was too welcoming. And I feel that probably could have backfired at some point.
Detectives trying to unravel how Kat West died are interviewing her husband, Jeff, who tells them his memories of the previous night are hazy. After a night of drinking, he says he went to bed, while Kat continued to party.
This couple went to have dinner and drinks. They went to a liquor store. They went home to drink more. So I think it's more than fair to say alcohol had an influence in what recounting these events looked like.
But as the interview goes on, Jeff does admit he remembers one other thing about the night.
Jeff told officers that he was a little aggravated that she was looking at her phone too much.
He told police officers that he felt like she was not paying attention to him. He threw her phone outside, and he went to bed. He was off. Jeff told officers she could have went outside, fell as she was trying to get her phone, or it wasn't unlike her to go outside in the middle of the night after drinking and jump on the trampoline.
If she was jumping on the trampoline, which was in their yard, we would have seen a trail of blood. The police department had to rule that out.
Maybe she got too intoxicated and walked outside, tripped and fell and hit her head, and nobody knew about it. They were both intoxicated. Maybe he had passed out before she had come back.
For me, he didn't remember what had happened. He woke up with the dogs barking and his door open. The cops were at his door. I was shocked. He was worried about his daughter and getting life moving forward without his wife, her mom, Kat being in the picture.
The coroner's report comes in the next day, January 14th. It doesn't give the detectives the clarity they are hoping for.
Forensics came back with the autopsy report, and it was determined that she died from blunt force trauma to the head.
So the skull was cracked. Someone struck her in the head, and she ultimately died from brain swelling. Looking at her laceration, it was about 2.5 inches long. It was on the side of her head, just a few inches from the top of the head. Where she had the laceration, it's almost impossible to get by falling down, and there was nothing out there for her to hit her head on. So we knew that did not happen. We know some kind of tool was used that was blunt, did not have a sharp edge on it. And the main thing that was in the vicinity that could have caused that was the bottle of alcohol.
There was a bottle of absinthe next to her that had a small chip in the base of it.
So the liquor bottle is very heavy. If you strike someone with that type of glass, it will not break. And there was some blood smears on the bottle that were Kat's blood. I think someone struck her with the bottle. So you think, what happened? Did somebody come in? Was this just a stranger in the night, or she, by happenstance, end up with somebody on the street?
The only fingerprints analysts find on the liquor bottle are either Kat's or Jeff's. But detectives know that doesn't prove anything, because the couple shared the bottle earlier in the evening. Although the coroner's report doesn't point to Jeff West as a suspect, the detectives feel it doesn't rule him out either.
The last person she was seen with was her husband, so you start to think, well, is there something that we missed? Is there something that we could press further on with him?
So the investigators start digging deeper into Jeff's story about the night his wife died. They visit the liquor store where the couple stopped before returning home.
You go to the liquor store, ask the employee that was on shift that night if they had seen them in there, pull security footage to verify.
But when investigators view the footage, what they find is the opposite of a couple on the verge of a violent conflict.
You can see Kat West. This is the last time we saw Kat West alive. The two of them are walking through the store. She looks smiley, cheek to cheek. Jeff West slaps her butt. It honestly leaves you with more questions than it does answer any of what might have happened.
Detectives suspect Kat West's husband Jeff may be involved in her mysterious death, but have no proof. They're examining Jeff's story about what the couple did earlier on the night Kat died, and have discovered surveillance video from the liquor store he says the couple stopped in. The video includes the final images of Kat alive.
Looking at the video, everything looks great.
The two of them just wrapped up a date night, seemingly having a nice time, flirting with each other in the liquor store.
It was funny when I saw it. He pats her butt. And I kind of chuckled because that's who he was. He loved his wife. He loved the way she looked.
There's laughing, she's smiling, she's beautiful, and they're buying alcohol for a date night at home. Everything appears to be normal, very playful, very happy. And it's sad to think that these are her final moments.
This final moment of her in the liquor store, that's who they were. That's who they are. They're good people, and she didn't deserve it.
The footage seems to corroborate Jeff's story that he and Kat are simply enjoying a fun night out. Detectives don't believe the images show him acting like a husband who will kill his wife in a few hours.
It looks like his entire story checked out and that they did indeed have a fun night together, and that was it. There's no reason we should list him as a suspect.
Kat's friends are equally convinced that whatever happened to her, Jeff isn't to blame.
He never seemed overbearing. Like, I never heard them argue or anything. They just had an interesting relationship, but it seemed like in a really good way.
I don't think there's a harmful bone in Jeff West's body. I've never seen Jeff be an angry person. I've never seen him act in anger.
Although the coroner could not determine the exact cause and manner of Kat's death, investigators suspect foul play. And with Jeff now considered less likely to have been involved, the search is on for other potential suspects.
She has a laceration to the head from blunt force trauma, so we were thinking there is something nefarious about this death.
The other side of the investigation that you have to look at is who is Kat West. You try to find any information you can on her. Is she cheating on her husband? Does she have any enemies? We've got to look at all sides of this.
When investigators dig into Kat's internet history, they learn that she has a massive online presence.
Kat had a lot of friends online. You know, I keep my friends on Facebook, just my friends that I know. Kat had thousands of friends on Facebook because anybody that would add her, she would add. And I think that's what kept Kat on her phone all the time, was that she was always talking to people online. When Kat got hundreds of likes for a photo, that's a dopamine boost.
But the investigation also leads to a concerning discovery about Kat's online life. She wasn't only active on mainstream social media sites.
One of the things that came out was that Kat belonged to a members-only type of website service, that she would take pictures of herself in lingerie, maybe even provocative type poses, and was selling pictures of herself.
She had over 50,000 followers on her page who loved to purchase photos of her. She would model herself as Marilyn Monroe and went by the name Kitty Cat West.
She had told me that she sold her photos online, and she showed me a couple of them. I was shocked to see what I saw. They were revealing in nature. They showed her butt, her boobs, cute poses, lingerie, and people would ask for more and they would have to pay some more money to get more. She was open about it, and Jeff knew it.
The adult stuff that she was doing online, it surprised me at first, but I think it probably filled a void for her, or it gave her some validation that she might have been craving.
Detectives realized that any one of Kat's 50,000 plus followers could have taken an online fantasy about Kat too far.
As a woman, when you are beautiful and you are showcasing yourself to these people, having a lot of followers like that, some of them may think they know you. Some of them might try to find where you live or where you frequent. There are bad followers out there. It's one of the dangers of having a following on the internet.
Kat was too friendly on occasion. Kat was too welcoming. I think Kat could have gotten herself into some sticky situations, and I feel that probably could have backfired at some point.
There were questionable comments that raised an eyebrow for investigators.
Did one of these followers go rogue and stalk her, come and find her? You have to take that into account.
The investigation into the death of Kat West has taken an alarming turn after investigators discover her photos on an adult website with thousands of subscribers, any one of them a potential suspect.
You see this blonde bombshell. She is in her 40s. She is a hot mom, and she had 50,000 followers across social media accounts.
News of Kat's online activities clouds the investigation in another way, as it quickly grabs headlines in her suburban Alabama home.
It took off so quickly. Before we could even fathom it. You know, it's on all these news outlets.
I was a digital content producer at a news station in Birmingham at the time. In Alabama, it's conservative, it's the Bible Belt. A woman like Kat West, being a cam girl or an online selling nude photos, that is not your typical mother in this town. And it raised a lot of eyebrows.
There was a lot of victim blaming that she somehow contributed to her death. Her background of what she did was frowned upon. Obviously, her drinking was frowned upon. The community, they don't want to believe that this happens in Calera.
Just because she took those beautiful pictures, she was much more than that. They don't talk about how she was a great mother. They focus on her online stuff, her risky endeavors online. And she was so much more than that.
Investigators begin digging into Kat's vast pool of online followers, searching for anyone who might raise a red flag.
I've seen some of the comments online, and they're not necessarily the nicest sounding people. I can't imagine what was in her inbox. I'm sure it was pretty graphic.
Calera Police Department did a fantastic job and took their time to go back to her website to find out who was subscribing and literally check out every one of her subscribers.
You've got 50,000 followers to sift through and try to see if there's any case to be made on that.
But after 2 weeks of digging, investigators cannot find anyone among her online subscribers who might have been in the area the night Kat died.
Those people were ultimately ruled out and not considered suspects in this case.
Detectives are back to square one with no suspects. As they review their case, given the new information about Kat's online site, they can't help but wonder whether they dismissed her husband, Jeff, too quickly.
Kat West taking nude photos and selling them online also raises the question, how did her husband feel?
But investigators discover that once again, there's nothing to support suspicion of Jeff.
She wasn't living a double life. Jeff, he was very aware of it. Even her parents knew about it. His parents knew about it. So it wasn't a secret.
There had to be someone behind the camera taking those photos. And sure enough, it was Jeff.
He's in adoration of Kat and posting how hot she is. And so at that point, you're really not considering him as a suspect as much as you were before.
He didn't seem to mind at all. In fact, at one point, Jeff told me, that's how she makes her money and makes herself feel good. That's fine.
And from there, you just go back to the drawing board, right?
When detectives go back to their case file, they discover something curious, something they believe deserves a closer look.
The Wests had an ADT security system at their home, and that provided some telling information. It had a log of when their front door opened and closed.
So by Jeff's story, he went to bed at 10:30 that night, but when they checked his security, that's where they started finding out that the timelines of the events that he described, they weren't exactly matching up.
His ADT system showed the front door opened at 1:51 a.m. and stayed open for more than 4 hours past that point. The times in which that front door had opened was also past the time Jeff West said he went to sleep. It could have been his wife, it could have been Jeff, but we don't know that.
Let's not forget that it's January and the door is wide open. If you slept even a few hours with the door wide open, your home is cold. You wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, the door is open. I need to figure out, why is my door open?
The confusing data from the house security system causes investigators to once again take a look at Jeff West. And their new suspicions lead to a warrant for his cell phone records.
He told police officers he went to bed at 10:30, but his phone logged that he had been moving around past the time he told officers he went to bed.
According to the fitness history on his phone, a short time after 11 p.m., he had taken 18 steps.
The data from the phone and the door opening and closing were not exactly matching what he was telling them.
And some of the text messages with his wife found on Jeff's phone are troubling to investigators.
Looking at some of the text, it was obviously not a relationship that was perfect. She felt that he wanted to leave her. There were multiple texts with this back and forth of, should we split up? Should we stay together? She's telling him, I know you're scared to tell me if you don't want to be with me, but it's hurting me by lying. There were some fundamental issues wrong in the relationship. And the text just kind of highlighted those. All the way leading up to her death, they had these texts going on.
When investigators learn that Jeff is apparently not telling the truth about the timeline of his movements that night, they start to question everything else he has told them.
There are still a lot of holes and gaps into what really happened that night. But at that point, there was no other person of interest, there was no other suspect. It was Jeff West and Jeff West only. That was being looked at as the murderer of his wife.
Investigators in Calera, Alabama have found evidence that contradicts Jeff West's story about his actions on the night his wife, Kat, died. After ruling him out earlier, the detectives are now again looking at him as a potential suspect.
Jeff had said that they had gone out on date night. They had come back home. They had taken pictures for her social media. They were in an argument about the phone because she was on her phone quite a bit. And he had gone to sleep and didn't know where she was.
He said his leg was hurting from a former injury he sustained in the Army, and so he went to bed, and Kat stayed up from there.
Detectives know the data from the West's home alarm system and from the fitness tracker app on Jeff's phone appear to contradict that. But Jeff is sticking with his original story.
He told police officers, how does anybody know the exact moment they went to bed? What's the difference between 10:30 and 11:15? If alcohol was involved, if someone asks you to the minute when you went to bed last night, are you able to have an accurate answer?
With Jeff now firmly in their sights, detectives go back and review all of the evidence. That includes obtaining the original 911 call from the neighbor who found Kat's body. When they listen to the full recording, they discover it contains a critical clue.
When she called 911, she asked had anybody already called this in, because across the street, she could see a man pacing in his home and the door was wide open.
This statement contradicts what Jeff West told police officers, and that was that he was awoken to the sound of sirens, which were not there yet.
Jeff's whole story seems to be falling apart. Next, the investigators conduct a careful re-examination of the evidence found near Kat's body. They realize there may be an explanation for some of the unusual things they noticed there.
We did see a cell phone on scene. There was a bottle of alcohol on scene. And it is weird that the bottle was kind of leaning up against the phone at an odd angle. You would think if you were intoxicated that the bottle would be just randomly down on the ground, not propped on the phone.
If Jeff was involved in his wife's death, they wonder, could he have staged the scene, trying to make it look like an accident? But it's when they re-examine Jeff's fingerprints on the absinthe bottle, previously dismissed because he was known to have held it earlier in the night, that the loudest alarms are set off.
The location of the fingerprints on the bottle of absinthe wouldn't be if you were to just grab a bottle. They were positioned if you were holding it upside down by the neck.
Detectives realize this could be because Jeff was holding the bottle of absinthe as a weapon. And they now put together a theory of what they believe happened the night Kat died.
Probably Kat was on her phone and that irritated him, and Jeff threw her phone outside. And then afterwards they took pictures, and she only had the bra on. And obviously something went wrong. Probably her asking where my phone is. And she went out to find the phone. He followed her out there and things escalated. I think he initially struck her with the bottle. She fell and probably lost consciousness at the time. And he walked back to the house. And as she regained some type of consciousness, she moved around in the grass and kind of pulled herself to the curb. She was in a fetal position, but probably because she was cold. She was just clothed in a pink bra, no other clothes.
Afterwards, the investigators theorize Jeff tried to cover up his crime by staging Kat's cell phone and the bottle next to her.
Obviously, there are some holes in his story, and as it progressed, the holes became bigger. So about 5 weeks after the cat was found on the street, Jeff was arrested for her death.
Despite having only circumstantial evidence, on February 23, 2018, police charged Jeff West with murder. Jeff continues to insist he did not kill his wife, and many people believe he is telling the truth.
Kat West's family, her parents, her friends, all sided with Jeff West. They immediately said that he didn't do it. They loved each other and they had this marriage that was so beautiful. And although they argued here and there, like, that's just marriage. That's what comes with it.
When I first found out, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, Jeff? Jeff hit her with a bottle?
I would have never pegged Jeff to be harmful in any way. I was in disbelief that Jeff would have killed Kat.
The evidence is counterintuitive to what I knew about her and Jeff.
Hoping to avoid a lengthy trial with an outcome they can't be certain of, prosecutors make Jeff an offer.
He was offered a plea deal from the prosecution for time served plus 2 years probation. He turned that down.
So you're turning down that for possibly spending years in prison. It made you wonder, is he really innocent? Maybe he didn't do it.
Jeff West's trial for the murder of his wife Kat outside their Calera, Alabama home is set to begin on November 17, 2020.
Jeff was offered a plea deal where he would serve time at a lesser charge. He would get out of jail earlier, prison earlier, but he did not want to do that. He wanted to pursue a jury trial and still maintain his innocence.
I was shocked when Jeff didn't take the plea deal, but I understood why. If that's your story and you're sticking to it, why would you take the plea deal?
Prosecutors argue that Kat's death was not an accident. That Jeff West bludgeoned her to death with an alcohol bottle following an argument.
The most damning testimony that was given was the medical examiners, who said that she could not have died by falling.
Prosecutors present jurors with the home alarm data and information from Jeff's fitness tracker suggesting he lied about his actions on the night of Kat's death. They display the texts showing a troubled marriage. And they showed the video of Jeff and Kat purchasing the murder weapon, a bottle of absinthe. But Jeff's lawyers counter that the investigation was not able to prove that the bottle was in fact used to kill Kat.
When Jeff West's attorneys were presenting the case to the jurors, they were saying, we don't have a murder weapon. We don't have a motive. These two were in love. It's not Jeff West.
After a week of testimony, both sides rest their cases.
When the jurors went to deliberate, I thought it could go either way.
The jury's options were murder, manslaughter, or innocent. I thought that they were either going to pick one of the extremes, that he killed her with intent or that he didn't at all. The jury came back after their deliberations and read their verdict. Jeff West was guilty of reckless manslaughter.
Jeff wasn't necessarily planning for this to happen. They had gone out, they had gotten drunk, they had gotten disgruntled about something and maybe gotten into an argument. It wasn't premeditated murder, it was more of a reckless killing.
To see them fall in that middle ground that he was responsible for killing her but did not intend to was interesting because that wasn't a story told by the prosecution or the defense. The defense is over here saying he didn't do it at all. The prosecution is saying he did and he meant to. The jury decided neither of those narratives held true. Jeff West was sentenced to 16 years.
Though Jeff West sits behind bars, for many, questions about his guilt still linger.
I think Calera PD saw online double life, jealous husband, crazy guy, and he killed her. But there are lots of other avenues that could have happened that night that I don't feel were investigated well enough.
I don't think justice was served in the case because I don't think it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But that doesn't mean he didn't do it.
The thing I miss most about Kat is her glowing attitude. She was always there as a friend. She could cheer you up any time of day, just a sweet person. She's gone way too soon, just way too soon.
She had just a glow about her. She had a spark, you know? She's just one of them people that you never forget.
I got to say goodbye to Kat and Jeff when they were leaving to Alabama, and I remember giving her a huge hug, and she was happy to be going home. And the light in her eyes was telling. She was thrilled to be moving on and going and living her dream.
She was probably the best person I've ever met. Seriously. That's how good her heart was. The world is missing her beautiful soul. I miss her love and her light and her energy.
That was basically my home. My parents had all the knickknacks from like games to movies. It was basically a playground. I absolutely loved it. I hear 4 loud shots.
Someone is a robber or a pumpkin.
Does he have a gun?
Yes, he shot my parents.
I remember it coming over the radio, kind of in disbelief.
Michael got along with everybody. He was on the good side of everybody.
Between you and me, brother, they were crooked people.
He had a large sum of money. Really, anybody could have followed him and figured out where he was going to be and when.
Maybe everyone else in there was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
September 20th, 2013, Danville, Kentucky. As dawn breaks, Michael and Angie Hawkinsmith arrive at the pawn shop they manage, ABC Gold Games and more. Their baby daughter Naomi and 9-year-old son Andrew in tow.
The pawn shop, that was basically my home. We had all the knickknacks of a pawn shop, from like games to movies to all sorts of junk. It was basically a playground. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was simply amazing.
The Hawkins-Smiths are always together, even on school days.
My mom was determined to educate me in a home setting.
When they first started to homeschool Andrew, they put homeschool in the middle of everything. So when Mike, he worked at the pawn shop, Angie would help him with things at the pawn shop. So Andrew would go in there, he would sit and study. He had his own little desk and everything. And they were always trying to spend time together.
The Hawkins-Smith family story starts a decade earlier, when Michael, working as a youth pastor in central Kentucky, meets a young woman as dedicated to her faith as he is.
He met Angie. And I think they got stuck together and they stayed that way. It's kind of like you didn't see one without the other.
Before long, Michael and Angie marry, and the family doubles in size.
Michael was on cloud 9. He just loved the idea that they would have a boy and a girl, and that their life would be complete.
My dad, he made things look so easy, and he was truly an amazing person. He would have a crowd of people, and he'd just be talking to somebody about something, and then he would just pick me up by the leg and throw me up in the air. And everybody'd be like, don't drop him. But he never dropped me. He always caught me by the leg and just put me down. My mom, of course, she was the pastor's wife. And so that's a big role to take. She was also a very sociable person, lovable person. She would always make friends with anyone and everyone.
He'd go preaching. Angie, she would sing. She constantly sang.
We went from church to church to church. It was simply amazing.
The family's journey eventually leads them to Danville, Kentucky in 2013.
They found a church here in Danville that they wanted to attend or get involved in. And when it comes to him in church, him being a parent, or anything he did, it was his whole heart or nothing.
Michael puts that same level of dedication into the part-time job he takes at a pawn shop to support the family while he preaches. Steve Devine, the owner of the pawn shop, quickly makes Michael a partner and lets him take over running the business.
He'd been working there for, maybe a year and a half before they opened the store that morning.
The morning of September 20th, 2013 starts out like any typical day. By 9 a.m., the pawn shop is open for business.
Once my dad got started, I did my own thing. I grabbed me a game system of some sort and started playing.
Within 15 minutes of opening, a regular customer enters the store.
The gold man, Dan Smith, came in.
Dan Smith, like Michael Hawkins-Smith, is a part-time pastor. He makes his money buying and selling gold at pawn shops and jewelry stores.
They was both at the desk conversating, dealing with money and whatnot.
Michael and Dan are haggling. Angie is rocking baby Naomi near the register. Andrew is testing out a video game. It's a routine morning. None of them are aware that these will be their final moments together.
Shortly after, this guy, he came in as well. And I was like, he's kind of weird looking. He starts to pull out a gun and kind of raises his voice a little bit and says, "Get on the ground." And we all did because we was petrified. Me, Mom, and my sister all huddled up to a corner.
Andrew hears strange, high-pitched sounds as he watches the unthinkable. A man shooting at his mother, father, and Dan.
For me, it sounded like a dart gun. Dad was like, "Please stop." So that happened, and he started rolling around until he wasn't. He stopped. But then Dan Smith was next, and then he was going to go after us. And my mom, she told me, like, to go in the back with my sister. So I do. I crawl all the way back to the office, and I sit my sister on the couch. I'm sitting right beside her. Of course, shaken up and don't even know what's going on. I hear 4 loud shots. And I remember crawling over to the doorway and seeing that my mom was just laying there with a puddle of blood, big puddle of blood. And so I picked up the phone and called on it.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone is a robber at a pawn shop.
Someone's robbing the pawn shop?
And my parents got shot.
Where is the robber?
He's right here right now.
Investigators catch haunting glimpses of a calculating killer.
We were starting to get these little clips of the silver minivan circling the area.
You can tell the van is kind of waiting. The way the whole crime played out, I think that it could be something professional.
And hear the voice of the man who may be responsible for a triple murder.
Oh, nobody, none of this, because what does it make me look like? It makes me look like the perpetrator, see?
My parents got shot.
Where is the robber?
He's right here right now.
9-year-old Andrew Hawkinsmith makes a desperate 911 call as he hides with his baby sister in the back of his family's pawn shop after an armed robber opened fire on his parents and their customer.
The robber, does he have a gun?
Yes. He shot my parents.
Okay, can he see you?
I'm in the back right now.
You're in the back? So the robber's up front of the store?
Yes, but I don't know if he's here or not. But come quickly.
Where are your parents?
Oh. They're dead on the ground. Come here quickly because I'm afraid. Please hurry.
Okay, they're coming, okay?
I was just sitting there with my sister and hoping to God that these police come.
Danville Police Detective A.J. Mullins is one of the first to respond.
I remember it coming over the radio, kind of in disbelief. Is that what I really heard? And it's what everybody just dropped whatever we were doing. We got down there.
It takes police less than 6 minutes to arrive at the pawn shop.
They came very quickly, and I had walked to the door with phone in hand and a sister in the other, and walking by these dead bodies of people that I loved. I was petrified. I didn't know what I was looking at. And out I walk with my sister.
When I arrived at the parking lot of the pawn shop up front, our captain at the time had come to my window and said, "We need you to get these kids out of here as soon as possible. We've got bodies inside." And they put them in my vehicle, and Andrew held Naomi on the way there to the police department.
At Danville PD, we actually only have 4 full-time detectives, and we take anything from a theft to a murder. So it was a huge case, so we needed all hands on deck.
I don't care how many times you've done it or seen it, there's nothing that truly prepares you for this.
After taking the Hawkinsmith children safely away from the crime scene, Detective Mullins rushes back to the pawn shop to join the investigation.
When you first walk into the door, there's a counter, glass counter. Angela's body was kind of in the corner near the register. And Michael was on the other side, where it looked like had been gold, some jewelry kind of laid out as if he was the one speaking to Dan at the time all this went down. And Dan, you could tell where Dan fell initially, and then someone had drug him back where it would be harder to see him.
You could see clearly the drag marks of blood leading in that direction.
And his briefcase was open on top of one of the tables.
Of course, we see tons of shell casings, but they, of course, also have a lot of guns that they're trying to sell that are within the pawn shop, ammunition that they're selling. So it really adds to the whole chaos of everything and not knowing at that point when you initially walk in what's going to be evidence.
When we go through the store, we're having to step around the blood, the shell casings, because we didn't want to step on anything like that. We had never seen anything like this.
There was so much evidence to collect and to process and to go through.
The victims had been shot multiple times, possibly after they were down. The only thing at that time that we could determine was that the spent casings appeared to be from a .22 caliber weapon.
An autopsy will later determine that Michael was shot 8 times in the legs, chest, and head. Angie was shot 3 times in the head. Dan was shot 5 times in the head.
Initially, you're thinking, okay, it's some kind of a robbery. We look at the register. There was still cash in the register.
One would speculate that the register would have been gone through for whatever money it had. So it did not appear that the motive was to rob the actual pawn shop. So that was definitely a red flag.
Obviously, as a police officer, we tried to do the best we could to get it solved as quickly as we could.
We're like, okay, what's going on? Is this more of a personal type issue going on? We're like, what do we have here? Is this something that it was a hit? Was it on Dan Smith? Was it for the Hawkinsmiths? Was it all of them?
Police in Danville, Kentucky, investigating a triple murder, need to talk to their only eyewitness, 9-year-old Andrew Hawkinsmith. The frightened child and his baby sister Naomi have been taken to the police station while officers try to locate their next of kin.
They had sat me down and was like, do you have anyone that we could contact so that way they can take you home? And I was like, I don't know, because I didn't know phone numbers. I remember being very shooken up because I was like, where am I gonna go?
And I went back to the police station and interviewed Andrew. Andrew was able to give us a good description of the bad guy.
He looked like a heavy-set dude and like a beard that didn't really look like an authentic beard.
He said, you know how at Halloween when people wear fake beards, there's little tabs?
And he had sunglasses and a cap.
And the suspect, he wore black latex gloves and camouflage coat.
Andrew also provides crucial details about the weapons used in the attack.
Andrew went in the back office, and as he's running, he could hear shots being fired. And he says they sounded different.
I remember him making a sound like...
And one of our officers got his silencer, and we showed it to Andrew, and it said, did it look like this? And he said, yes, that's exactly what it was.
The use of a silencer raises frightening concerns for detectives.
The way that just the whole crime played out, I think that it definitely could be a possibility, that it could be something professional.
As detectives consider whether they are hunting for a professional hitman, word of the shooting reaches Michael Hawkinsmith's mother at her home across town. She rushes to the pawn shop.
When I got there, I knew it was not good. I got out of the car and some of the officers met me halfway up the alley. And I said, I want to see my son. You need to go to the police station and see your grandbabies. There's nothing no worse in this world than to lose a child. But if it hadn't been for Andrew and Naomi, I don't think I would have survived it.
Police locate the family of the third victim, Dan Smith, and break the awful news to them that same day.
I was in college, and I get this call from my stepmom, and I could tell from her voice that something was going on. And I couldn't believe what she was saying and said, what? Like, what? And I just froze. I just couldn't believe he was gone.
I just couldn't understand, what I was being told. I just couldn't comprehend.
He was such a giver, financially a giver. He was a giver of his time, his energy, his kind words.
As the victims' families try to cope with the devastating news, investigators back at the crime scene are continuing to dig for clues. They canvass the area around the pawn shop and find a promising lead.
We found a witness. He saw a heavy-set, tall, white male coming out of the pawn shop. Described him as having a beard, and he went around to the little alleyway, and there was a van that pulled out of the alleyway and turned right.
The description given was a silver minivan.
The pawn shop doesn't have a security camera, but many other businesses in the area do.
So we reviewed camera footage in the area, and we actually spotted a silver van matching that exact description passed by where the pawn shop's located. We are able to track the silver van basically through town with that video. You can just catch it, drive right by, and it matches the description perfect, right? And then right after that, we see the sliver of it pass there. So you can tell the van is circling this area and kind of waiting.
The detectives cannot make out the van's license plates, but the footage convinces them that the unidentified driver was staking out the pawn shop, or someone inside. Investigators focus on who might have been the target and why.
Well, we started looking at the Hawkinsmiths, who they might have had dealings with.
Of course, you find that they're just a loving, good family. No criminal history and no reason for anybody to want to harm the Hawkinsmiths.
Detectives also take a closer look at the Hawkinsmiths' business.
Steve Devine was a co-owner of the actual pawn shop in partnership with the Hawkinsmiths.
So we go and talk to him, and turns out he was actually supposed to be there that day.
The detectives learn that Steve Devine knew the Hawkinsmiths were scheduled to do a gold deal with Dan Smith that morning.
He said that he woke up because of something with his allergies, and he called him and he told him that he wasn't going to make the meeting. So we're like, well, that's what we call a flag.
The detectives must now consider whether Steve Devine purposely avoided the pawn shop that morning because he knew what was going to happen.
It was definitely concerning that the owner of the business, who was supposed to be there, ironically just didn't show up because of allergies.
Detectives investigating a triple murder in Danville, Kentucky are looking into Steve Devine, the business partner of victim Michael Hawkinsmith.
He was supposed to be there and wasn't. And so we're like, what's going on here?
Steve tells police he was sick and with his wife all morning.
We were checking him out and confirm that he's telling us the truth.
His alibi clears him, but their interview with Steve provides detectives with a new direction for the investigation.
He was able to fill the little holes as to what was going on in the pawn shop.
Dan Smith was a gold buyer. So he carries a briefcase with him with a large amount of cash.
Dan Smith's wife was able to tell us that he would do a certain route on certain days of the week. So he goes to his bank, he gets the money, and then he had a lot of pawn shops that he went to.
He'd have anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000, and he went to known businesses on known days. So really anybody could have followed him and figured out where he was going to be and when.
We're thinking maybe he was the actual target, and everyone else in there was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Investigators visit the other pawn shops where Dan did business and ask to see footage from their security cameras.
And then once we started following Dan Smith, we were able to say, boom, he was here at this time on this date, like clockwork.
So this is Dan Smith. This is a pawn shop in Lexington he goes to.
You're trying to look for anything, any odd vehicles that may be following, anyone within the store that may be paying him any particular attention, anything like that.
As they review the tapes, detectives find video from the last pawn shop Dan Smith visited before heading to the Hawkinsmiths.
This is where Dan Smith arrives at Lawson's Jewelers in Harrodsburg, Kentucky. Be around 8:20. 8:20.
He walks in with that same briefcase. and then talks to the lady behind the counter and just appears very relaxed, laughing. Has no idea, obviously, where he's headed. I don't even think it was a full hour after this. Dan Smith was killed.
It's kind of odd when you're watching this. This is the guy's, last moments. He doesn't know it. Nobody knows what's getting ready to happen except for one person.
Investigators scour the footage for any indication of who that one person might be.
There was nobody that appeared to be paying any particular attention to him. Mind you, the video was pretty narrowly focused, coming out of the one store, so we couldn't see his full motions once he crossed the street. But reviewing that video at the time, there was nothing that stood out.
We really were kind of baffled at this point. Who was even the target?
4 days into the investigation, there's no clear target, no clear motive, and nothing pointing to the identity of the gunman described by 9-year-old Andrew Hawkinsmith.
We were getting ready to figure out what our next step was, and this phone call came in to the police department from Michigan. And we're like, Michigan, now what do we have here?
The caller from Michigan identifies himself as a pastor. He tells police about someone in the Kentucky area who knew the victims and has been making suspicious comments.
The pastor from Michigan relayed that he was friends with an individual by the name of Kenneth Allen Keith, and that he had communicated with Kenneth Allen Keith and got on the subject about the murders in Danville.
The pastor explained that Kenneth Allen Keith knew the Hawkinsmiths, and that Kenneth Allen said, talking about the Hawkinsmiths, that they're not innocent either.
This pastor had said Mr. Keith just switched like a light switch, that something set him off, and he said that they had cost him a lot of money.
And so I think that statement alone really stood out to him, because, you look at they are innocent people, right? He's concerned that potentially his friend, Kenneth Allen Keith, could be involved in this triple homicide. The call was what kind of turned the whole investigation around, when we realized that it could be the Hawkinsmiths that were actually targeted.
Four days after the murders of Michael and Angie Hawkinsmith and Dan Smith, police learned that a man named Kenneth Allen Keith has been making suspicious comments about the Hawkinsmiths.
Once Kenneth Allen's name was mentioned, we started looking, okay, who is this guy?
He was involved in the pawn shop business. He had one in Somerset, Kentucky. And he was a pastor of a small town church in Pulaski County, Kentucky. He appeared to be loved by his local congregation.
That was kind of a common denominator for everybody involved, as they were all heavily into the church, either as pastors, ministers, leaders, just in a church.
But the investigators quickly discover that Kenneth Allen Keith appears to have a different style of preaching than the other pastors.
We found one of his sermons that he had on YouTube where he's on the pulpit and he's got a rifle with a sling on. And he's talking about his past, what he's done. And we're like, okay, we have a sniper here. And the further that we looked into Kenneth Allen, the more we're like, oh, this is a good lead.
So when we start looking into Kenneth Allen Keith, we look into his financial history. And we learned that he had recently been sued by Steve Devine. And so he owed Steve Devine money.
Police learned that Steve Devine, the co-owner of the pawn shop with Michael and Angie, had been in business with Kenneth Allen Keith before putting the Hockensmiths in charge 4 months earlier. Prior to that, the Hockensmiths had actually been Kenneth Allen Keith's employees.
Kenneth felt cheated. He felt that that pawn shop should have been his. And that Steve Devine and the Hockensmiths basically stole it right out underneath his feet.
So we felt that would be a good motive. That would make someone upset. Upset enough to kill someone? We didn't really know the personality or what was really within Kenneth Allen Keith at that time.
But as they dig deeper into Kenneth Allen Keith, detectives uncover what could be another crucial link between him and the murders.
It ended up that there was a silver/gray minivan that was registered and associated with him.
The same kind of vehicle seen on surveillance video speeding away from the crime scene. While all of the evidence is starting to align around Kenneth Allen Keith, investigators know everything they have is only circumstantial. To help them build a more solid case, they reach out to the pastor in Michigan who initially tipped them off to Kenneth and recruit him to help their investigation.
At this point, we want to take that a step further, so arrangements are made to actually record phone calls.
On October 9th, 2013, the Michigan pastor calls Kenneth Allen Keith while the police listen in to see if he says anything incriminating.
When somebody's being murdered in such a heinous way as what this was, you want to make them, out to be saints. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But between you and me, brother, they were crooked people.
Is that right?
They went into it with the whole point from day one to take over that business from me. I don't mean to speak ill.
No, hey, man.
Facts are facts.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I can't tell nobody none of this because what does it make me look like?
Yeah.
It makes me look like the perpetrator, see?
And during that phone call, he was able to kind of go over what he was doing that day, what his location was, how he wasn't involved.
I was in Danville, but I was at the pharmacy. I'm standing in the pharmacy while all this happened.
We took that information and looked at the video surveillance, and we found that moments after the 911 call, Kenneth Allen Keith was entering the pharmacy in Danville. The timestamps from video gave us the indications on when it occurred, and from the pawn shop to the pharmacy, that was a doable time.
He was actually here at a local pharmacy just within minutes of the time of the murder, which we thought was unusual to travel basically an hour to pick up a prescription when you have local pharmacies in your local community.
The detectives have no doubt. They are watching Kenneth Allen Keith just moments after committing a triple homicide.
Watching him and knowing that he had just killed 3 people. It's hard to fathom how somebody can just, take somebody's life and then act like it was nothing.
10 days after the murders, police believe they finally have enough to arrest Kenneth Allen Keith. Now, they need to track him down.
We tracked his phone and we were able to actually see that he had went to Florida.
And when we knew he was on his way back, we were setting up our game plan, what we were going to do, that we were going to have a search warrant at the church, a search warrant at the home where he lived with his family, and a search warrant at the pawn shop in Somerset, Kentucky. And that's when we make our move.
October 9th, 2013. Danville, Kentucky police are waiting as Kenneth Allen Keith, the prime suspect in the murder of Michael and Angie Hawkinsmith and Dan Smith, returns home from a trip to Florida.
He gets up the next morning from coming home and he goes to his pawn shop. And that's when we make our move. An investigator went in as a potential customer and made contact with Mr. Allen. We didn't go in with guns drawn, anything like that, because pawn shops have guns in them and we don't know where what is. And he came out from his office area and they were able to basically tell him, we've got a search warrant for your pawn shop.
As police search his business, Kenneth Allen Keith is placed under arrest.
During the search of the pawn shop, we discovered a box for a threaded device that can be purchased over the internet that can be fashioned into a makeshift silencer.
The discovery confirms detectives' suspicions that a silencer was used in the killings and explains Andrew Hawkinsmith's description of a high-pitched sound as his parents were shot.
And then also outside of the business, we found spent .22 shell casings and then a target that had been shot. So we believe that he was practicing prior to the shooting.
The .22 casings found in Kenneth Keith's pawn shop matched all the expended shell casings from the murder scene in Danville, Kentucky. They were shot from the identical weapon.
There was evidence, obviously, that tied him to this case to make it a strong case.
Detectives confront Kenneth Allen Keith with the overwhelming evidence.
We are always trying to get an outright confession, but that did not happen.
We got the opinion that Mr. Allen thought that he was just so intelligent that he was going to beat all this, but he didn't know what we had found.
News of the arrest shocks Dan Smith's family. They know Kenneth Allen Keith and believed he was a good pastor and a friend.
Dad had a previous relationship with Kenneth Allen Keith. He would come in and he would buy and sell. They did business. You're going, wait a minute. That's not a real pastor. But to be able to commit murders on Friday and then get up on the pulpit Sunday morning and preach, especially in front of 2 children.
For Andrew Hawkinsmith, who hid for his life with his baby sister during the murders of his parents, the news comes as a relief.
I remember they was like, hey, Andrew, look at this, look at the news. And they showed me the newscast where they finally caught him. I was like, all right.
Prosecutor Richie Bottoms believes he has all he needs to convict Kenneth Allen Keith on 3 counts of first-degree homicide.
I think the evidence spoke for itself. We felt very confident that we could convince the jury that he did this.
After initially announcing they would seek the death penalty, prosecutors decide to spare Andrew and his baby sister Naomi and Dan Smith's family the pain of a long trial. Instead, they offer Kenneth Allen Keith life without parole in exchange for a guilty plea.
We all come out on the short end of the stick, but that's okay. I don't have to answer for what he did. The man's going to have his own demons he's going to have to live with.
I want people to remember who our dad was. I want him to be remembered by the good things that he did for people. He was a very kind man, and he wanted to help. He wanted to help people, and he did.
I've been told you're a spitting image of your dad, and you look just like him, you act just like him. And my mom, I think Naomi, she looks just like my mom. I'm very thankful for what I have. And in a sense, it's like I am like living through my parents' life, or kind of like a reimagined one. My parents will always live on within me.